channel. So in today's video we are doing the long anticipated master's degree video, so graduate applications. For those of you who don't know and are new, hello, my name is Emma. I graduated with a BA in comparative literature back in January. I applied for master's degrees and I'm going to film school in January, which is really fun, which is an MA. So what I'm going to do for this video is I'll split it into two parts. I will first give you like my general experience in having applied for things, any general info that hopefully would apply more or less across the board. So I did apply for like a normal master's degree and then film school, which is a master's degree, but it is a little bit completely different from my other applications. So I'll just give you sort of the insight into how each of my applications, what their similarities were and what their differences were. So hopefully that will cover a lot of bases depending on what you yourself want to go and apply for. And then the other half is just very like specific stuff like what you might need, etc, etc. And though very specifically for the universities I applied for. So for a quick background, the master's degrees I was initially applying for were management degrees. I applied to Cambridge and I intended to apply to UCL and Imperial. I ended up not doing those two things and I instead applied to London Film School, got in for that. So that is a very quick gist and the experience then that I'm talking to you guys with. I will also do a supplementary blog post. Yes, the blog is back, that I will link for you down below, just because there are quite a few things that it's a lot easier to write out, and I also have examples actually of my personal statements. And I know people don't share them because they can be so wanky, but I think it's important to share because then you know sort of what you're looking at and you've got at least a point of reference. I think the most difficult thing is to go into any of these things completely blind, and you clearly don't want to, otherwise you wouldn't be watching. So without any further ado, here are the more like general aspects of the application process. The first thing I think you need to be aware of with master's degrees is that they are really expensive compared to your undergrad, which in the UK for most people is just 9 grand a year. I say just 9 grand a year, but with master's degrees, it gets out of hand enormously quickly, especially subject to what you want to do. I read somewhere online that they base how much the degrees cost sort of to do with your earning potential. Even though I'm not entirely sure if that's true, it does sort of look that way. For example, the most expensive one that I have found to date was London Business School's MA, which was just shy of £100,000. It's a 90 grand degree. So very much links to the fact that a lot of people will not self-fund these degrees. A lot of people will not go do their undergrad and go straight into a master's degree. With master's degrees, it is a no pressure situation in terms of whether you should or shouldn't do one. I really recommend that you take time out and really think if it's right for you. Don't do a master's degree after your bachelor because you don't know what to do next. Do yourself a favour and don't rush. If you come straight from your bachelor and go to your master's, you're probably going to be the youngest person there anyway. You can afford to take your time, quite literally. The other side with that as well, being that they are so expensive, is that companies often will pay for them. I personally have no idea how this works, but just do consider that like you can get a company you work for to fund it, or maybe you're on a program and they would fund it for you. I know with law, with the firm you're with, you do something that's essentially equivalent to a master's degree. I can't provide any information about that, but just know that it is out there. The next thing I guess to keep in mind is that they are very much for you to specialise. I guess in a way it allows you to really sort of focus on exactly what you want to do. So only go into doing it because you know what you want to do and that is what you want to do. So for me, I did want to do management because I did feel like it would fit, even though obviously my career aspirations are film orientated. As many of you know, I am a filmmaker, but obviously with film there is always a business side of things. It is not a purely creative career choice. So for me, I thought that would still work. I mean, directing and managing are very similar, but in the end that is not what I ended up doing and I decided to go to film school instead. I did think management would be something that I could then, you know, still do anything with. I don't necessarily know if that's the best position. It obviously depends on you, but just I've got from most people I've spoken to, parents, etc., is really master's degree, you'll want to know exactly what you want to be doing with that. Like I said before, don't do it because you don't know what else to do. The other thing is do your research. Have a very good, you know, shop around from different unis and different courses that you can do because like I said, everything's really specific, so there is a lot out there. There might be a course out there that you don't even know exists that you would really want to do. So just take your time. And I mean, you're watching this, you are doing your research. Time is on your side when applying for these. Obviously double check all of the deadlines. I actually got one wrong. I thought I had a week longer than I did. And I actually ended up not applying to Fit University, even though I'd already made that choice, but I still actually got the date wrong anyway. So you know, there's another thing where it differs massively from undergraduate degrees is nobody is holding your hand now. You do have to do this all yourself. You have to do your own research, you have to make your own applications. It's not like you can go through UCAS and school will tell you what to do. No, you've got to figure this out yourself. So start looking now, don't put it off until later or whatever, start looking now. If you're thinking about doing this, you've still got a couple of years of your undergrad left, start doing it in, I don't know, the summer before your last year, because as well, your last year gets so intense that you want to have kind of sorted this beforehand. The whole process of applying for a master's degree is very intense. You know, you just have to sort yourself out. You really are just on your own. With every application, it's not like you can just do one application, put it in through UCAS and send it off like that to every university. I had to apply to every single university directly. I'm sure I could have done it through UCAS, but it just made more sense for me to just take each application individually and be able to work at it at my own pace. The main thing I want you to make sure that you do is do not assume this is like a bachelor. Just don't make that mistake. It is nothing like when you applied in school. Everything is a lot more individualistic with these courses. They set their own deadlines, they set very specific questions, which I will share with you that in the blog post that I wrote. It's just all very hyper-specific and very intense. You can't write one application and copy and paste it and submit it everywhere. That's just not gonna work. And a lot of these courses want you to explain to them where you think this course fits in with your future aspirations. This is what I mean when I say don't do one because you don't know what else to do, because they want to know how this degree is going to work for your career choices. They're the kind of people who are going to ask you, so what's your 10-year plan? In terms of timing, if you want some advice on like when the best time to apply would be, even application deadlines can be in May. Do it before Christmas. If you're in your third year and looking, do it before Christmas. When May rolls around, you're gonna be butt crack deep in work and stress. You're gonna be so bogged down in everything else you're supposed to be doing. You do not want to add this on top, because all it's gonna feel like is this is a voluntary bucket of stress you're adding onto yourself. Do it all before Christmas, and then you don't have to think about it. And then if something goes wrong, you have time to fix it. This is such an important thing, you have time to fix it. For example, I did apply to Cambridge. I will leave the application below because it's got nothing to do with what I'm doing now. And also I'm sure having a frame of reference just works for people. I got all of that done by Christmas. They did reject me. That was lots of fun. But because I had applied so early, I had enough time to sort myself out. I obviously don't recommend putting all of your eggs in one basket. I still had time to apply to Imperial and UCL, but I chose not to. When I checked the graduate portal, most applications are made through graduate portals that each university has individually. When I checked and found out that that was a result, obviously I was devastated, but I had a weird devastating spiral of, I was absolutely like heartbroken, but then remembered that I actually wanted to do film school. I was so obsessed with the idea of doing a management degree that I completely forgot that I actually wanted to do film school. I forgot that there was even a film school that I wanted to go to. I'd seen the degree that I wanted to do when I was browsing for my undergraduate, and I mentally bookmarked it and then forgot about it for 3 years for some reason. And then I remembered in that weird spiraling moment. So that was one of the more bizarre experiences of my life, of just complete, what am I doing in my life now, to, oh yeah, that's what I was doing. So then I made that choice and I applied there. So I really just did a complete 180 and was like, nope. And I guess, I don't know, chase your dreams or whatever if you want some kind of motivational, not that the management degree wouldn't have worked with my career aspirations, but I feel like it meant that I was in a way putting myself further away from it and giving myself a nice cushiony safety net, when really if you're chasing your dreams, what's the point in a safety net? You may as well just go for it. So that's what I'm doing. So I guess I am guilty in a way of trying to do a degree because I don't know what else to do. And the thing that fascinated me the most actually was just how, understandably, how different my application for Cambridge was and how different my application for London Film School was. They were just so different, and I feel like the enjoyment I got out of doing the film school one just screamed to me like, what was wrong with me in the first place? Because this was just stressful and I didn't really enjoy it. I mean, it would have been very nice, like, you know, great ego boost and validating if I got in, but at the same time, that would have been stupid. This makes much more sense. And I know will give me so much more like life fulfillment. Like, why don't I want to write essays again for another year? No, I don't want to do that. I mean, I like writing essays, but I don't want to do that again. So if you're getting confused and out of your depth, because like I said, it can be very specific, very intense, you shouldn't hesitate to contact the admissions teams and the departments and so forth. I'm sure they'll be very happy to hear from you. I'm sure making some kind of contact can definitely help. I mean, if anything, it shows that you're super keen. Most places will try and interview you, either via phone call or via video chat of some sort. Probably assume they do rather than assume they don't. So if you know that they do, one thing you should definitely do is you should search student forums for interview questions about your course. Because trust me, they're out there. With my interview, I was just very prepared. And if you can, get someone, maybe not a parent, maybe somebody, a friend of a parent to interview, i.e. somebody that you're not like 100% comfortable with, that's not, you know, your family. Practice as much as you can. Like, I think one of the things that really helped me was I'd done a lot of interviews for jobs the last year. I've become very not blasé about interviews, but practice does really help. Even if it just means that you know the routine, but it puts you at ease, it will help you a lot, and it'll just make sure that you're calmer and that you're more yourself and you can focus more on the important things rather than, oh my god, I'm embarrassed, how's my face gone bright red? That's one of my favorite ones. With an interview, the main thing you can only ever really do is just prep, which I know can be hard, but do your best. Oh, and the other thing is when you're submitting applications, each time get ready to hand over the 40 or 60 pounds. This is something that was like, oh, okay, this isn't free. This is with my perspective on the UK, of course. I don't know about the States, but like, I was kind of surprised I had to hand over my money each time. I was like, oh, okay then. I'm not entirely sure how much the law, for example, differs between undergraduate and graduate programs, but clearly the financial aspect is just wildly different. As far as I'm aware, there are no limitations on where you are allowed to apply. In the UK, you're only allowed to apply for your undergrad for 5 universities, and you're not allowed to apply for both Cambridge and Oxford. So that is not the case with master's degrees. And then also surprises me each time with the Americans, because you guys are allowed to apply for so many places for your undergrad. I've seen those videos of people opening like 20 different letters of like whether they're rejected or not. That's insane. We're only allowed to do 5. So while there are no formal limitations, I would still recommend limiting yourself. Every application I did was completely different. They will ask you very specific questions, very specific university and course and future questions, so you can't copy and paste. So do be aware of that because it is a lot of work. I wanted to apply to 4 universities, I only applied to 2. I do not recommend putting all of your eggs in one basket the way I did. It has been a slightly terrifying experience. I essentially had my Cambridge meltdown maybe before or after Christmas, and then I had enough time to fix everything so that I would have something come the new year. Make sure you have A, B, C, D, E. Do not count on your plan A. Make sure you have other options that are just, you know, as good as A. So have plan A, AAA, like, you know what I mean. Do not count on anything. So obviously with everything you do, you check admissions rates, check acceptance rates, check class sizes, check diversity. The more information you have, the more that it will help for you to, in the end, prioritize which universities are and are not worth your time applying to. Very specific things. So the things that every single university asked me for was a CV, my university transcript, 2 references, my personal statement, very specific questions regarding career goals, your choices, your future, etc., your fee for applying, and then how you will fund your degree. Because like I said, they're expensive and the university wants to know. If you didn't have a CV before, make one. If you have any friends or parents' friends who are in a similar field that what you want to go into, have them look over it. Just have someone else read it. I think the most important thing you can do with a CV and a personal statement, etc., or have another pair of eyes look over it. Even if it's just going to tell you, oh, that comma is in the wrong place. You do not have room for error in these situations. Do as much as you can to improve your CV. I can recommend that maybe you can tailor each one a little bit towards the course that you're going for, so that even in the CV, it shows very much that this is part of your game plan in terms of what you already have done, what you want to do. So that's what I did. I actually tweaked my CV a little bit for both applications I ended up sending off, because if they're going to ask you about future choices and everything else, you want to make sure that everything is almost a self-referential loop. Everything you've mentioned will link back to other things you've mentioned to show that you've kind of got your shit together to the highest degree. With your references, I think one of the best things you can do is to have an academic one, and then to have a job one. I asked my dissertation supervisor to write me a reference, and I asked my boss to write me a reference. So I've never read either of these references, but my manager assures me She assured me if I get in, this is the reason why. So she's very, very proud of herself for it, which is really sweet. So obviously have someone who likes you write one. I think it was just important because it showed two very different parts of who I am. You know, like academic Emma is not the same as work Emma. You have different skills you use in those two situations, and then, you know, you have someone else to vouch for them. Because I mean, I can tell you that I'm organized and hardworking or whatever, but it's still gonna mean more when it comes from somebody who is, you know, paying you for it. To also agree that yes, you are XYZ things. Hopefully your references are gonna add weight to the things you've already said about yourself. But every single place I asked, they all wanted to. With all your applications, of course, double check if you need to do any standard testing for it. With the management degrees, a lot of places wanted a GRE. It wasn't mandatory, but I'm sure it would have helped. So just check all of these things way, way in advance. With your personal statement, of course, I think the first thing you need to do is not panic. If you have a CV, you can obviously have that to work with. Maybe dig up one that you did for undergrad or look for some sample ones online. Like I said, mine are linked below. Obviously do not copy them verbatim, that would be stupid. Also, that's plagiarism. But with personal statements, you just need to read a lot about the course, read for the kind of person that they want, and then you can tailor it towards that. If you want the mother of all buzzwords, buzz phrases for your application, it is holistic learning experience. I just love that one. I just think it sounds great. I used it in my applications. I really, really enjoyed it. I had a lot of fun with it in the end, but just don't panic too much. But for the love of God, let someone else read it. Do your research, know what they want, think about what you want, and have a good, hard, long look at yourself in the mirror. If you write it and you're not like, this is so wanky, you're definitely doing it wrong. These things are by nature meant to show the best of who you are, and yet it can always sound a little bit too much, but that's just how it is. If you would like a sample of what I mean by hyper-specific questions, allow me to share with you the ones that I had for my Imperial application, and you will also understand why the hell I didn't finish it, because who has time for this? So, list your target organisation and role, 200 characters. What expertise, product will your business deliver, or what problems is your business going to solve, 800 characters. How big is the market for the goods expertise you plan to sell and what the current competition is, 800 characters. How do you plan to finance the business, 800 characters. What gaps in your skill set do you need to develop and prepare for this career, 800 characters. If you're not successful in your first choice career goal, which sectors will you pursue alternative opportunities within, 200 characters. List your second choice organisations and role, 200 characters. Is that not terrifying? If the answer is no, what? I am not joking when I say you need to think this through, and that's why I cannot stress how early you need to start. If you start this a week before the deadline, you're gonna have a meltdown. So my warnings for you are, they are very specific and they are very intense. Very, very intense. So for film school, I essentially had to do all of this and then submit a few extra things. I had to submit 3 films. I actually submitted a photography portfolio. I didn't have to, but I could, so I did. And I also had to submit a 3-minute original short script. That was a shock when I read it. I was like, oh shit. But then that was actually something we talked about in the interview, so I just felt very within my element then. But you know, when it's like asking you to just, you know, give me a creative idea, it's like, holy fuck. That's why I, again, can't stress enough. Start early and give yourself room and give yourself time. I want your takeaways to be the following things. Start early, do your research, be sure, and just, it's gonna be intense, so you really want to get your time management in check with applying for all of these things. It is a completely new level of applications that just, you know, were not like that when we did our undergrads. They really, really held our hands, and I am really, really grateful for it that they did. Master's degrees, you're on your own. So yeah, I think that is everything I have to say. If you have any questions, let me know down below. I'll see what I can help you guys with. If you guys can help each other, that would obviously be fantastic. And leave your own experiences if yours was totally different from mine. We want to collect as much information and be able to cross-reference as much in the comments. That would be great. That is everything. Like I said, the accompanying blog post is linked below. It's sarcasticfish.com if you're interested. But yeah, I think that's everything for this video. Like, subscribe and all that jazz, and I'll see you guys very, very soon. Bye. Hi guys, do your research. Got more individualist. What is your, damn it.